What is up, everyone? Adam here. We're going to be talking about a phone that a lot of people don't really know, mostly because not a lot of people use LG phones. There's several reasons why, but mostly it's because their price degradation and their software. But I'm going to be talking about a very specific phone that actually, in my opinion, is a pretty good deal to pick up right now. This is the LG G6. I actually got this from eBay, and I got it for about 30 bucks, so I'm going to be doing a review on it. Let's get started. The first thing that I want to tell you is that this was released back in March of 2017, and so this phone, design-wise, looks pretty much like 2017 standards. I mean, we got a little bit of a bezel up here, we got bezel down here. It actually doesn't look that bad. The screen to body ratio isn't that bad. You can see we have actually pretty thin bezels on the side. Now, looking around the phone, on the front, we have a 2880 by 1440 LCD display with Dolby Vision HDR. And so what I can tell you about the display itself, it's actually quite sharp, even though it's only an LCD display. It's actually very, very sharp because it's 1440p. And so even, you can't really see any pixels because I believe it's over Retina. You can see. It's very clear and sharp. So everything looks really clear and sharp and pretty good in my opinion. For looking around the phone, down here, we got a USB-C port. Over here, we got our speaker grill, and we got our microphone. Up here, we got our speaker, and a 5-megapixel selfie camera, and two 13-megapixel, one wide and one ultra-wide. What I could tell you about the design of the phone, it's actually quite modern. Looking around here, we got glass on the front and back, and aluminum on the sides, which is actually really good, and I don't really have a problem with this. Second thing that we're going to be talking about is how fast this is. One thing that actually makes this much slower, this would be a very, very fast phone. What I mean by that, it's still fast, but not as fast as it could be if it was on Oxygen OS or stock Android, and because of this actually is kind of slowish. And that is because of LG's UI, and it's not good. It has 4 gigabytes of RAM and a Snapdragon 821, which isn't actually that bad. And what I can tell you about the performance is that opening apps and closing them and, doing most things should get you through the day, and getting through point A to point B isn't too bad. Now let's talk about the cameras. Now I said that we have a 5-megapixel selfie camera and dual 13-megapixel rear cameras with a 13-megapixel camera that is just a normal wide angle lens, and then we got an ultra-wide camera that is 13 megapixels. So, what I could tell you about the camera, it's actually not terrible, and I actually really like it because of the ultra-wide. The ultra-wide is insanely wide. It is wider than most flagships even today. This camera has a 125-degree angle, which is really cool because it gives this kind of GoPro effect, which I actually really like. And it's really not that bad, the performance of this camera. I really wouldn't complain with it. Yes, it says, it's only 13 megapixels, but it's really not that bad. And I'm going to show you some photos right now. So I'm actually going to show you a really good photo that we have right here. Now, it looks kind of saturated for some reason on my camera. What I'm recording with, probably because I'm just recording on a OnePlus 7 Pro and it makes it a little bit more saturated. But you could see it's quite sharp, and even if we zoom in, yeah, you lose some pixels, but I bet you can even crop in and it'd still be fine. The HDR isn't too bad. Now, it's not as good as something as like the newer flagships, but it's definitely not terrible. Here's another photo. What I could tell you about this photo is that this photo is really, really good. Like, seriously, it blurs out the background almost perfectly, and it just makes things look extremely, extremely sharp. So now I'm going to tell you about some other features of this phone. So some other things that we got is that we got 32 gigabytes of storage. We got a 3300 milliamp hour battery, and what I can tell you about the battery is it's not terrible. I don't think It might get you through the day. It depends how much you use it. I think you might get, I haven't used it fully, but you will probably get about 4 hours of screen on time, maybe 3.5. So it's definitely cutting it, but, you know, if you're careful, it might be okay. And another thing that we have is IP68 water and dust resistance. In some cases, we also have wireless charging, and we do have that on here. And another thing is the fingerprint scanner. So the fingerprint scanner isn't terrible. It's actually pretty good. I'll show you it right now. You can see it's not too bad. I wouldn't complain about it. Anyways, guys, so should you buy the LG G6? I think so.